So we're doing taxis and ride sharing, just for improving road safety for that specific industry. So I'm Kevin Axelson, and this is our first persona, which is, well, very hard to read on this apparently. So it's John Ackerman, and it's got like goals, similar goals like high Uber rating and frustrations such as distractions, car accidents, and like fines, etc., basic stuff. So he's 24 QUT student, just driving in his spare time. So next we've got John Doe, who's like a taxi driver as opposed to an Uber driver. And for that, the motivations are incentive and income, and goals is just picking up as many customers as possible, getting the job done, getting money. So one of the methods we used to research is I actually caught an Uber and watched the Uber driver and kind of detailed it here. So initially, when I got in, the GPS was on the windscreen, just attached with one of the suction cup things, and so that the user doesn't have to look too far from the road since it's already on the windscreen. Secondly, the navigation had voice on, so that they didn't have to look at the GPS if they didn't need to. And secondly, they set the GPS whilst already driving, which obviously takes away from, like distracts from the actual road, since they're setting it, looking over there, using their hands over there. And every time the GPS spoke, the driver would still look at the GPS, kind of like ruining the point of the voice, because they would check which way to go, presumably to make sure they get accurate navigation. They would make small talk and look at me in the passenger seat, which again, distracting from the road to show like common etiquette. They would interact with the Uber app to reject a pickup at one point. This was closer to the destination, but still distracting from the road. And the other thing they did, well, they made no clear mistakes this time around, but that can't be guaranteed for the future.
Okay, next I'll go through the flow chart of a typical driver. So first they will receive the booking through their mobile phone, and they enter the location of the passenger, and they drive to the location. When they reach the location, they will scan the environment to look for the passenger. So if he sees the passenger, he will pick up the passenger and greet the passenger. If he don't, he will just call the passenger and ask where is he. And he will check if the intended destination is entered prior to the booking of the cab, and then enter the destination on the GPS, drive to the destination, and so next I'll go through the distraction and dangers of driving. So this is extracted from the Road Safety Commission in Western Australia. Distraction impairs the visual search pattern of the driver, reaction time, decision making, and the ability to maintain speed. So undertaking a secondary task for inexperienced driver, it will be very difficult for them, and for older driver, they will need a longer time, the longer reaction time. Next. Distraction can be classified into two types, technology-based and non-technology-based. So technology-based includes texting, email, booking notification, tuning your radio, or entering a destination on the GPS. Non-technology-based consists of smoking, eating, and drinking while you're driving. So these are the dangers I've extracted. It's failure to yield the way of right, reckless driving by other road users, driving too fast for weather conditions, fatigue due to long hour shift, and faulty roads and traffic light.
Alright, so my name is Jared. I'm going to go through some of the existing solutions that are about at the moment. So there's been a lot of research into road safety, because it's a big concern for a lot of areas, and there's a lot of stakeholders involved, including car manufacturers, companies, say Uber, taxi industry, that sort of thing. So let's take a look at the first one. So we're going to do the next slide. Yeah. So this one deals with potential dangers with the left turning driving aid. So yeah, the Honda Research Institute published a journal detailing proposed system for drivers making left turns. That's going across in front of oncoming traffic. So that would be a right turn in Australia. So the idea is to project a pathway in front of oncoming traffic to give more time to drivers to make a decision and make a safer turn. So it allows better judgment for the driver and increased visibility and cognitive processing. So it keeps them more attentive on the road. And so the next one is about the difference between traditional navigational aids, such as GPS, and an eye-level augmented reality navigational aids. Just discussed the difference between looking down and looking at eye level, keeping your attentiveness on the road, not getting distracted. So you use both like a reversing camera and map-based GPS, and it found that eye-level augmented reality was more effective at keeping that attention for longer. On to the next one. So here's a few graphics showing that. So there's the projected path. You can see it's a bit blurry, but it's from the journal showing that. And this was how they experimented with the navigational devices. And here is where the augmented reality would be. So you can see that they would be looking down, and the eye tracking measured that. Go on to the next. So just some of the trends. So with distraction, you're looking at maximizing driver attention and increasing cognitive processing. So just one example for that was, say, with roundabouts. They found that drivers complained about the extra thought required for roundabouts, but they found that extra cognitive processing actually helps with driver performance. More visual information on dangers and time to react. The next one. So just some of the challenges and that's facing this sort of technology with making sure it's unobtrusive, seamless and intuitive, making sure drivers are happy and comfortable with the interaction, and that on to the next, policies. There's a lot of different stakeholders involved, so car manufacturers, legal and moral concerns, that sort of thing, and just constraints on the actual technology itself. So to be mass-produced in vehicles, have to be a good size, cost, and that sort of stuff. So this one.
In some of the research that we did, there was a paper about a comparison between two metaphors. So the road signs were based on the universal ones that you would have studied, and the safety marks are based on the white lines you see on the road, and it's modeled after them. So as you can see on the left and the right images, what the paper found out was that using arrows were better than asking people to recognize road signs in terms of response time. This is another paper about directing a car driver's attention, because a driver's attention always shifts focus, especially for an Uber driver who would have to shift his focus to talk to his passengers. So it's a comparison between exocentric and egocentric themes, where this is a representation of a car, and the red dot represents danger at a specific point. And the red arrow is a different theme, which is egocentric and points in the direction of danger. They found that the red arrow was better. So some of the current problems with augmented reality is, with the current technology we have some depth perception issues. And as you can see from this picture, the driver is trying to drive through a fog and is relying on the augmented reality to point him in the right direction. So dependency on this technology could cause problems, because if the technology fails and he trusts it completely, he might get into an accident. And on the right picture, you can see there's too much information, so it's a bit of misuse with heads-up displays. And lastly, as you can see from the previous two studies, if it's not implemented correctly, it has the potential to cause distraction. These two here are the most popular types of heads-up display in a car that you would find. This is basically a smartphone, and the one on top is a portable heads-up display. On the right, top right, you see glasses which are similar to Google glasses. They're developed by BMW and they're currently experimental. And at the bottom right is the for a motorcycle helmet which is able to give you a 360-degree view by using a rear camera, which is towards the bottom right of your eye.
So we based the design on the personas and interviews. So they wanted to help avoid distractions, which would, so it does this by alerting the user to focus on the road when distracted. And the augmented reality is transparent and will fade and disappear at different points, so it removes the distraction from the view. Design should help avoid car accidents. It does this by warning of overtaking vehicles or blind spot hazards, as well as alerting the user when they're getting close to the vehicle in front. The design should help avoid fines, so by this it just helps the user recognize road signs so they don't miss them whilst driving. And it should the design should simplify navigation, which it does by having road lines and distance to turn and maneuver for navigation. So these are based on the personas that were at the start, based on their wants for distractions and quick trip and avoiding hazards. So the prototype will be shown over the next slides, essentially a paper prototype. So very good drawing, as you can see. Initially that just outlines, so the navigation at the top. There is also road lines here, but I did them partially transparent, and apparently then also that's not showing up very well. Again, there's road lines there. So the car is outlined in green there to show that there's a normal distance away. There's actually some boxes here showing the distance. These really aren't showing up well. And then that says 2.5 meters away to show how far away it is. The fuel gauge changes to yellow to show that it's getting closer to empty. And this view is showing that the user is looking at the speedo, which is why that's no longer transparent, well, as transparent. So at this point, they've gotten too close to the car, so this would be a warning that just says slow there on the yellow road lines. And the speedo has gone even more transparent, warning them to look at that. This is all detected by cameras that would be mounted to check head movement and eye movement. So again, you can actually see that one. The user is within the closest range, which is dangerous. So the road lines are actually gone in this one, and it's telling the user to slow, and the watch road is still there since they're still looking at the speedometer. So next they've slowed down, so the car's moving further away. That is back to the yellow point, the road lines are back, and the distance away has turned yellow because they're getting closer. So then you can kind of see these road lines for a turn. That is orange to show that they need to slow down somewhat to make the turn, and it shows that how far away the turn is. And this is without navigation. This is showing that someone, like an alert for someone overtaking on the right, that has an exclamation mark. Okay. That's my attempt at drawing a car in the rear view mirror, slightly a blind spot. So the car is overtaking, it would highlight the car and keep the warning up just to show to avoid it. And then again, there's the boxes behind it showing that it's like its distance away. And finally, it's like highlighted in green in front and a safe distance away. This is a very basic example of what it could look like as a real example. Ignore my taskbar there, I forgot to crop it out. Thank you.
Thank you.